So we are basically,
All aspects
we are
on Polkadot.
collecting whatever Polkadot already has built and putting it into one spot and giving basically developers a really easy way of building.
So it's basically like a powerhouse for infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's we like to say like one-stop shop for developers, and you do not have to learn anything new. Basically, you can still use languages like you would in Web 2, but once you deploy, the result is Web 3.
I'm here with Nino. He is the CPO of Apillon. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to
GM.
be here.
Even though it's noon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheered up, definitely.
So we're in the middle of Decoded. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's nice to see familiar faces, and it's nice to be in Singapore. It's a nice intro to Token 2049. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what's next. And the talks that I saw so far were great.
Sure. But a long flight, I guess.
Oh yeah, we do feel a little bit jet lagged. Everyone from our team. Yeah, it took us a while to get here, but it's definitely worth it. I would say Singapore is very beautiful.
Great. So first of all, we're curious about you. Can you tell us about your background? How did you get into Web3?
Yeah, so basically, I always did a lot with my own startups, and I worked first as a freelancer, as a developer. I studied graphic design, and
Different.
then yeah, but I was always kind of focused on the user
the
experience
for
part
the
from the
products.
design. In 2016, we started thinking about running our own crypto company, which wasn't so successful after a year or so. Then I joined Economy, which is quite big company in Slovenia, in Ljubljana. And I was there also a product guy for almost 3 years or almost 3.5 years. And we were super successful there. But we were mostly handling selling of Bitcoin and different assets. And at the time, I already knew, things are happening with Web3. So
You want to do something.
yeah, I wanted to, go there and stop selling Bitcoin, but
see.
instead build with the technology. So I joined Apillon as basically this product was kicking off. So I had this opportunity to help build it from day one.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
So when was that year?
It was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
2022?
Yes,
Yeah.
something like that.
I see. Great. So today you're gonna come with your team, and you're doing the speak yesterday, right?
I had the speech today.
today,
Yes,
today.
I already did it. And then we have some events already planned with the team, with other companies
Lots of
here.
events.
Oh yeah, I heard there is like 1,000 side events
It's
happening.
good for
so
networking.
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
So let's talk about Apillon. So people say that it was built by developers for developers.
Yes.
So I want to hear from your viewpoint because you're the CPO, right?
Yes.
Let's hear about Apillon from you.
Yeah, I mean, the very simple explanation is we are a Web3 development platform. And we are targeting developers who know little about blockchain and just want to develop like they are right now in Web 2, right? So this is like a very short description. But what's happening in the background is we are actually utilizing several existing Polkadot parachains. We connect to those parachains, we do heavy lifting there, and we translate this into very simple APIs into SDK and CLI, so basic tooling for developers to start building.
Great.
But if we make this even more concrete, I can maybe share an example. So if you go to our dashboard, and you turn on storage service and you create a bucket like you would on Amazon S3, you can drag and drop a file, right? But what happens is we're connected to Crust parachain in the background. So we make sure this file then goes over Crust blockchain, it gets pinned, it gets stored to IPFS. We also handle the payment, and we make sure that this file is now decentralized, right? So you don't have to even understand that there is Crust. You don't have to have their tokens. You don't have to configure and connect their manually, but you can just build, right? And same goes for our hosting service. You can also host your website simply by dragging and dropping. It's done. Then we are utilizing Kilt parachain for authentication, Accurest for cloud functions, Fala for compute.
Lots of
Yeah, we also
collaborations.
integrated Moonbeam and Astar for smart contracts. We are now integrating Unique for NFTs. So we are basically,
All aspects
yeah, we are
on Polkadot.
collecting whatever Polkadot already has built and putting it into one spot and giving basically developers a really easy way of building.
So it's basically like a powerhouse for infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's we like to say like one-stop shop for developers, and you do not have to learn anything new. Basically, you can still use languages like you would in Web 2, but once you deploy, the result is Web 3. So that's what we are trying to put together.
Great. I think maybe for the sake of people, for developers in Web 2, right? Because you
Yes.
were mentioned different parachains, different projects that you
Yes.
did like collaborations with.
Yes.
But then maybe they don't know about like each projects, right?
Yes.
So maybe talk a little bit more about the disadvantages of no, not disadvantages. Maybe talk about what's the difficulties of Web 2 of devs that from Web 2 coming to
Yeah.
coming to Web 3.
Yeah, okay. So typically when a Web 2 developer, starts thinking, okay, I would like to build a dApp, right?
Yeah.
That's, let's say, that's the motivational part. First thing they have to do is decide on which chain to build, right? Because this is an investment. It's an investment of learning something new, of figuring stuff out. And it is very hard to find a chain because every chain promises something, and then once you are already deep into it, then you figure out whether your choice was good or not, right? So we make this much easier because we go over Polkadot and we choose projects which are really good, which are production ready, and we also are very, how to say, connected with the teams there, right? So this is the first step. We do this opinionated choice of what is the underlying technology, and we implement it, right? And we can always expand. We can always say, okay, we will have another storage provider. So now you have ability to choose between two, right? The second part is there is learning of new syntax, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to write a smart contract, you need to have some sort of tutorial.
Definitely.
Either it's Solidity or Rust. On the other side, how we solve this, we have a library of pre-written smart contracts, which are also audited, and you configure them in a UI. You basically fill out the form, click deploy, and we make the magic happen in the background, right? So, and then obviously, whatever is happening with the smart contract, we give you the API to control it. So your logic still remains very much the same, right? For example, one good...
Because it's different, right? From Web 2 to Web 3.
Yes, yeah. So if you're a front-end developer in Web 2 and you are used to consuming APIs or consuming SDKs, you will love Apillon because we have, for example, we have Flutter SDK, which enables you to immediately write a mobile app and connect to our services, right? So yeah, that's how we try to make it much easier. And second thing I would say is the way we choose which services we support. It's trying to build the full stack of what a developer typically needs, right?
Yeah.
So I can give you an example.
Yeah, totally.
Let's say you're building Web3 Instagram clone, right? What would typically happen is when user installs this, they have to create some sort of account, right? So for this, we have Kilt, parachain integration, which is able to manifest or generate decentralized identifiers just over an email. So let's say first step for this Web3 Instagram, user would enter email, confirm the email,
Yeah.
and they would be inside Web3, right? So with the embedded
Without
wallets,
knowing.
without
Without
knowing,
knowing.
yes. And the second service we provide for this is embedded wallets, which I demoed today. And yeah, user enters an email, and now they have the underlying wallet. The first thing an Instagram user would do is probably some sort of selfie to set an avatar for them, right? So as this selfie is created and user uploads this, as a developer, you have to choose where do you put this file, right? If you put it to Amazon, you put it to something which is centralized. You don't know if they created a copy of this. So
Whereas,
basically, you just connect to our Web3 storage, right? So you have an API, you just push the file, and we then make sure it goes to Crust, parachain, and gets pinned there, and it's decentralized. So the logic then follows. And yeah, if you would, for example, like to then, I don't know, decrease the file size to create tiny thumbnails, you could use fileless Web3 compute, which is also executed in trusted execution environment, and you can decrease this file or manipulate it in a way where you have guarantees that no one really saw this file, and you put it again back to the decentralized storage. So you go back and forth with these services, and you could emulate or build actually Web3 clone of Instagram with the services we currently have available.
so that's like, is that the biggest goal for Apillon to like onboard all the
Yes,
Web2 developers?
exactly.
That's your
Yes,
ultimate goal, I
yes.
can see.
It's our vision is to empower Web3 developers because we understand that if we want adoption with Web3, we need to be able, or developers need to be able to iterate really quickly.
Yeah.
So to build, instead of 50 dApps a month, we need to be able to build 5,000 dApps a month, because then one will have really good chance of commercial success. And that's how it's going to happen. And mostly if we look back at Web 2, it was constant improvements on ease and convenience of development, right? We are not developing websites or apps the same way we did 20 years ago, right? The language has changed, the tooling has changed, and development has become easier. So we are trying to apply the same logic to Web 3.
I mean, there'll be like different projects. They were heading towards like users, right?
Yes.
Users adoption. So there
Yes.
we need projects to attract developers as well. So you
Exactly.
guys are doing that.
Yes, exactly.
That's great.
We need to increase the mass of developers.
From both sides,
Yes,
right?
and then the mass of dApps increases, and then the mass of users
The bigger
can
one.
increase. Yeah.
That's great. So what's the best features if you have to point out from Apillon? Let's talk about that.
I would say, and I started my speech today by saying I think this is one of the best features we have created, and it's called embedded wallets. And essentially, we built this together with Oasis Network, which they have this confidential smart contracts on their network. But essentially, how this looks like is, let's say you have a product or e-commerce store, whatever, whichever platform. Once you integrate our SDK, the user enters their email, enters the code received to the email, engages with passkey, which means like just putting your fingerprint on your phone, and the wallet is generated. So there are no mnemonics, no private keys exposure to the user at the time of onboarding. They just enter and the wallet is fully functional. So yeah, I would say this is massive because it can be very quickly adopted by anyone who wants to use this.
Like the use case that you just point out, right?
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah. Or any existing dApps. Like for example, if you have a decentralized exchange, a DEX, and you have this issue of non-technical users trying to do something, and then either not understanding private keys, mnemonics, or getting scared at that step. Now you can just skip this step and put them right there where they are. But there is actually no caveat. User can still, when they're educated enough, they can still access the private key, export it, and say, decouple themselves from the embedded wallet experience and use this as a standalone wallet if they want to. So yeah.
I see. So let's talk a little bit about your perspective on Web3 in general. Yeah. So how do you think about the future of Web3 in your opinion?
I mean, when I entered Web3 or when I started working in blockchain, we had all this, wild ideas of what blockchain can solve. And I've seen white papers.
Did you believe in Web3?
Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, from day one.
Really?
That was very, very
That's
strong
great.
pull for me. And we were reading, white papers of tokenizing buildings and stuff like that back in 2016, 2017. And now we see this, like our RVAs, real world assets, which are happening, is very much similar to what we were thinking back then, but now it's becoming possible due to regulation and compliance, starting to understand
Clearer.
Web3. Yes,
Yeah.
it's kind of becoming clearer. And from someone following this for a very long time, I see massive potential in this, like in calibrating our products within the compliance sector and really figuring out the sweet spot. It will take us a while, but I think that's a mandatory step we need to take. Compliance isn't always just bad, but is there to protect users. And in Web3, we need to be able to protect users in a way because blockchain is immutable, right? So immutability and losing something can lead to massive financial losses, etc. So we need to have something in place. And I think this is now the most exciting part. We see projects like we saw today, Mythical, for example, with Mythos Chain, and really millions of users who are, operating and using this without even knowing. But it's still semi-compliant or as compliant as it can be at this point. So yeah, I think this is the path to adoption besides the technical advancement. And this is the most exciting part. I think the most exciting time is coming right now.
I mean, we're still at an early age, an
Yes.
early stage
Yes.
of Web3. But then, even if the world is like fractured, that's the beauty of it, and then we can actually improve it
Yes.
day by day,
Yep.
right? But there's also an aspect I want to mention when you said about decentralized world, right?
Yes.
Security, it's something that people always concern. Yeah. So how do you think Apillon are doing with security aspect for developers, even users
I would say we are as secure as the solutions
of Polkadot?
which are
Understand.
of underlying solutions. And being in Polkadot and understanding how Polkadot works, I would say highly secure, right? And that's like when you read comparisons of different chains, we have now L2s and app chains and ZKs happening all across the globe on other chains, while Polkadot does this natively, right? And extremely secure compared to other ZK solutions out there, which are kind of workarounds to existing chains. While we have this from day one, it's part of the architecture. So it's a great place to be. And I have no doubt in security. I also have been following and been on so many Polkadot events that it is clear that this is one of the top priorities, never to compromise security. And what we have already is very good, or maybe even the best. So that would be my answer regarding the security.
No, that's what they're heading for. Polkadot. I think sustainability. It's the word that they are actually run for.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the upcoming plans for Apillon? Maybe we're in the end of the year. We're at the end of the year.
Yes.
Right? And then 2025. Are you guys planning anything new?
I mean, yeah, definitely. So right now, in the following month, we are releasing RPC as a service, indexing as a service,
Okay.
Embedded wallets, which I already mentioned, smart contract deployments with more smart contracts there, and Web3 cloud functions, which are derived from Accurest. So
Is that a new collab, or you guys
Yeah.
already did?
yeah, this is all of this is new, and most of it revolves around some sort of a partner within Polkadot ecosystem. But yeah,
That's great.
Web3 cloud functions are basically. So with this, we will try to simulate Web3 backend, and developers will no longer need to fall back to centralized backends, but instead they will be able to write Web3 functions, which on Accurest are basically deployed to TE phones, right? So you have this network of phones which people are not using, and they are plugged in, and your code gets deployed to one of the phones, and it's executed there, and then it's gone, right? So
Like each phone is like a node, sort of?
Yes, yeah. But basically, phones with specific CPU architecture, people borrow them into the network.
I see.
And if you need to compute something, let's say you want to calculate pi or something like that, you can deploy the script to this phone, it gets executed, you get the result, and the script is gone from that phone. So you can also have persistent script on that phone. So this is how then you can do like Web3 backend. These are like beginnings towards Web3 backend.
I see. Okay, so I think we covered pretty much everything from today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I hope to see you in the future.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. You're a very nice host.
Thank you.
Cheers.